Welcome to the Tom Castro Shooting Academy podcast. You have now entered the next level. I'm super interested in your training regimen from, well, let me ask it this way. In 2021, you didn't win every nationals. Did you change something from 2021 to 2022 in your training to, I guess, win everything? Is there something that you specifically trained differently than you did the year before?
There are a couple things I've done differently. I think the last couple of years, because it didn't just start in 2022, right? Like it's been building up.
Of course.
Like this was a phenomenal year for me. Like the chances of this happening again, like, as much as I want it to, like, are pretty extreme, right? And I'm gonna do everything in my power to make that happen, but you never know. But no, the last couple of years I've been not being as hard on myself when I mess stuff up and kind of analyzing what I did wrong and why it was wrong or why it didn't feel right or why it didn't work. And then coming back in practice and actually working on like just very small aspects of what I'm doing. And one example of that would be my draw, right? The last couple of years, I've transitioned when I need to a scoop style draw. Which averages me about maybe 2 or 3 tenths of a second faster if I do it correctly. I don't do it all the time. I only do it when it's a static draw where the only thing between me and shooting the round on target is the start signal, right? There's no movement. If there's movement, I'll do a standard draw where I come down and get a whole purchase on the pistol. But these kids like Jacob Hetherington and Mason Lane, the stupid scoop draw, and every single stage, like whether I shot better or not, they were 2 or 3 tenths of a second faster out of the gate, right? So I was playing catch up. I'm like, man, it sucks. So I went and none of us invented the scoop draw that's been around for decades, and I've seen people use it years and years ago, and it was never important enough for me to focus on something that small until recently, because the level of competition is just so tight. Everyone's so darn good. Like something 2 tenths of a second on a field course stage matters, where before it maybe didn't as much. So that's one example of stuff I've changed. I think, like I said, analyzing when stuff doesn't go right. Like this year, I can count on one hand matches I didn't win, and I learned something from every one of them.
You learn more from the wins or the losses?
Oh, losses, I think.
Were they big? Were they big? Do you still have big breakthroughs at your level?
Oh yeah, for sure. So this last year, I think my biggest breakthrough was finally being comfortable focusing on what I needed to running the red dot. Because I've been an iron sight shooter for 21 years, right? Like that's what I've done. That's what I know. And I've shot carry optics. I've shot red dots for several years, but I never really got it.
Right.
And this last year, 2 years, I finally realized something I already knew, which is you focus on the target when you have an optic. But I was subconsciously transitioning back to the way I would aim my iron sight gun, right? Where my focus is bouncing between the dot, the sight and the target. And I would do it subconsciously, not even aware that I was doing it. And the symptom or the telltale sign is, at least for me, shooting the red dot felt slow and like controlled, right? Like I can be more accurate because it's more of a definitive point where the bullet's going to go, where iron sights is more like sorcery, I guess. You just look at the sight at the blob in the background and trust that everything's going to work out. And you can make the argument for target focus with iron sights too, but for a red dot, 100% you should be focused on the target. And just realizing that I was doing that subconscious focus shift between sight and target, it was a big breakthrough for me, and that I could leave my focus on the target. And now I could not only, see bullets appear if, I was close enough for that, but I would get more visual data from the target itself, and then just be aware of where the dot was. And I think that was the biggest breakthrough for 2022 for me.
The funniest thing is that's such a stupid little ass thing.
No, right? It's not stupid for somebody that comes with iron sights.
But I mean, it's such a little thing though. It's not that's not like that is a giant breakthrough, right? It really is. But when you say that out loud, it doesn't seem that hard, right? Until you actually have to execute it. And then you have to, but to me, you found it. The hardest part is finding it, like understanding that you were doing that, right? I mean, that's really hard to know, like I'm screwing up here, right? At your level too, because so you're that terrible at it in your mind and still competitive, right? And then you find it and you're like, that was what it was. So it was just that little thing. And that is such a small thing, but it's a big hurdle, right? Because now, I mean, how much did you practice just that? Just trying to focus on the target when you were shooting a red dot?
Well, once I figured out that's what I was doing, still, like I would go to the range and that's all I would focus on.
Yep.
Right. Like I'd come up with, different drills or different ways to, show myself what I was doing in different ways to, figure out what was better, right? What worked, what didn't.
Did you try the occluded dot at all? Did you try your dot?
So I hate shooting like that.
Yes.
I think the occluded dot can be a good training tool.
I said the same thing.
to prove to yourself what you're doing.
What you're doing. Yeah.
Right. Because if you're like, you can't focus on the dot, and if you do, it's black.
Right.
Right. So I think it can be a good training tool for that. I think it's kind of a crutch to use in a match, because there's so many things that can go wrong if you're relying on that, right? Like if you're shooting around a barricade or in an awkward position, like you're not always seeing the target past the gun with your non-dominant eye and looking through the scope with your dominant eye. It doesn't, not everything works perfectly. So I think it can be a good training tool for that.
In your scenario, that actually, the occluded dot would probably be very difficult because you were going back and forth. It wasn't just you weren't always stuck to the dot. You were going back and forth like you were with the iron sights. So that would probably be a little bit more difficult to do the occluded, because then you're like, wait, I just saw it. What happened?
Well, and the funny thing is, maybe I'm more aware of it, that I was doing it without thinking, just because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. So I'm not able to make that focus shift as fast. So this is the one instance where maybe age actually taught me a little something to help me out.
So how old are you now?
I'm 33.
Okay. Oh my God. You not even that old, but that's awesome. How tall are you?
6'3".
You're not six. I think you're 6'4". Anyways, you have gazelle abilities. Like your legs you never look fast. It pisses me off. Like you never look fast and you're really fast. So it's like, I watch you shoot and I feel like I'm running as hard as I can. I'm like, dude, he just walked over there. That's bullshit. But and that was one of the things that I've always talked about in shooting is those are things that you don't get from practice. That's just your ability as physical, right? Your physical, but you're in good shape. Do you work out?
I do. And that's another thing I've done the last couple of years is focus more on that and nutrition and kind of get myself where I want to be.
Yeah.
And that plays a huge role too. Like me 3 years ago, at the end of a full day of shooting would be pretty tired and kind of worn out. And I wouldn't be shooting as well as I did at the start of the day. Now I'm ready for another 10 stages, right? Like I'm ready to go, like, let's get it done. So that plays a huge role, I think. It just makes everything's easier. Everything's easier.
I think you're 100% on that. So at Area 5, after day 1, I shot great. We shot half day. When we got into day 2, I had just changed my diet and I didn't eat at Area 5. Well, no excuse, but I didn't realize how much it really affected my mental. And I've dropped off, like just in the middle of that match. I had like 2 stages that were just terrible. Like one of them was just, I had one single bullet killed me. But the other one, I shot like 5 rounds.
But are you talking about the 38-yard hardcover bobber with the no shoot behind it?
Yeah, that one.
Yeah, I saw you shoot that.
Tell you, did I ever
shot it great?
I did, and that cost me that honestly cost me the match, because the stage before that, I shit the bed. Like I leaned out on 2 pieces of steel that usually fine, right? No, man, I went to war. Like, so I learned a lot at Area 5, not just the physical, but I changed my diet that day or that week before I got there. And I didn't realize like eating at the match was important. And because I used to just not eat, because I'm like, no, it bogs you down. And then I realized I can eat throughout the match. Well, at that point, after that, and actually I'll explain the bobber. The bobber, I actually trigger prepped, waiting for the bobber come up. And before the bobber came up, I pulled the trigger into the no shoot. And that's where the no shoot came from. And I was like, I just did that on purpose. I mean, you're mad, but you're laughing because you're like, I just did that on purpose.
Right.
Like I literally
you did exactly what you intended to do.
Yeah.
It was just wrong.
It was just wrong. And I was like, and you were like, dude, you crushed that stage. I think I saw you the next day. I said, yeah, no. He goes, yeah, I saw the score. He goes, but you murdered that. You transitioned on that long bobbing steel. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, it just so frustrating because I shot that stage really well, but it just, sometimes it doesn't work. Right. And, and then at that point I just pushed and pushed and pushed because I knew I was down. Mm-hmm. And it got worse. So, but I learned a lot that day.
And that's kind of a whole nother conversation. Like, how far back were you? How did you know where you were? Did you know what you had to make up? Like, and how much does that play a role in, your thought process there?
So I'm not going to lie. I never looked at the scores. I never, ever looked at the scores because it used to bother me a lot. Like I think there's levels in this sport and most of those levels, people think it's the shooting. I think there's more levels to the mental than there is to the actual shooting part. And I mean, I've talked to you every year after every nationals. Like I just come up, say hello, usually congratulations because you won. But I try to pick your brain a little bit after everyone because I respect you as a shooter, as a person. You handle yourself really well. It actually makes me laugh when you win because I'm just like, it almost looks like you're like embarrassed or like shy, like, oh, okay, thanks, I appreciate it, like, and that's just you being humble, right? Because you're a badass, you're a great shooter, but you're also a good person. So I always come up to you and ask you questions about, I think I ask you way more about mental than I do anything else for sure. And it's just, I always get the same answer, right? It's like, some of it's experience, some of it's just, we talk about how pushing too hard or whatever. And it's usually that so this year, or I guess 2022 was the year that I learned that's the most major matches I've ever shot, right? I saw you at Area 8. I saw you at Area 5. I had a chance at Area 8 as well. I had a chance at Area 5. So those are all matches.
We both did. Who beat us at Area 8?
Stupid ass Mason Lane.
Stupid Mason. Stupid Mason and his occluded dot.
So he actually, dude, he shot lights out in the second half of that match.
Yeah, Mason's a good shooter.
He's awesome, dude. He's a great shooter. I did the same thing. I had a great second. I had basically the small speed shoot stuff killed me. And the reason why is because
but it's okay. They're only 30, 40 point stages. It's no big deal.
The problem with that is you guys don't mess up. So 30 or 40 point stages turn into 80 points in the middle of the match because it's two of them, or, you know what I mean? It's just a lot of that stuff compounds and I learned to not go for the win. Does that make sense? Like I kept going for the stage win on those stages. And I'm like, they don't mean a damn thing. If I got 39 points or 38 points, okay, I'm going to win the longer stages. Those are my strength. Like I'm better at the bigger field courses or the ones where you have to be more aggressive. That's what I'm better at. The stand and shoot stages are fun. I enjoy them. I like speed shoots. I just sometimes get to the point where it's like, I got to win this. No, you don't. And I learned that, but unfortunately I learned that with a lot of ass whoopings. I'm not learning them without getting beat. So I'm like wasting years away of my youth of what I have left of it. And, but I started working out this year as well. So that's why I asked, because you definitely have gotten, not that you were ever fat, but I've looked at a couple of your older videos. I think it was last year to kind of see where, like, if I could see something different, and you definitely looked much more in shape. I said, you were never fat, but you just looked like you were.
No. I'll be mean to myself. I was fat. Yeah. Maybe not then, but the heaviest I've ever been, I want to say, is 260, and that was
pretty big for you.
Pretty big years ago.
You're tall.
Yeah, it's still little chunky.
Yeah.
So in 2019, when I signed with Canik, I want to say I weighed 220, and right now I clocked in at right about 190.
Nice.
So it like I said, I finish a hard day of shooting and I'm ready to do it again, right? Like I'm
Right.
not tired, I'm not exhausted. It lets you focus on stuff that's more important.
Yeah. How many rounds you shoot at a practice? Are you a high round count guy? Are you more focused on individual like skill sets at the time? Or
do I look like Eric Rafael? No.
well, I was going to ask you if you can afford Eric Rafael. Good Lord, those numbers. Come on. I mean, I would be a great shooter too. That's amazing numbers, dude. That's over 100,000 rounds a year. What he's talking about.
Yeah, Eric shoots a lot, and Eric's a phenomenal shooter. But he
Absolutely.
also he puts in the time, he puts in the work when it's necessary.
Yep.
And he didn't win production national or production world shoot by all that much this year. Like there was, I think, a Filipino kid not too far back from him too.
So I will tell you, if you ever listen to his philosophy, he plays the game. Right. Mm-hmm. So he's big about the game. So that's something that I've learned. You know, I talked to you about it, and I try to listen to those guys. You got to learn to play the game. You can't go for 100-point match win. It's just it's not there at the level that we shoot at. Right. Like you're lucky if you get a half a point.
Sometimes. Yeah.
And I don't want to say it's luck, because it's not luck. Right. There's no such thing as luck when you shoot that many rounds. It's just the work that you put in throughout the year, and you don't let that one round affect you in the stage, right? Like your last stage at production nationals was, can you give the people that listen just a little like insight of like how that last stage started? Cause you knew it was close, right? Mm-hmm. And you picked a different stage plan, correct, than Jacob, right?
So the weird thing is the stage we ended on for production nationals was the same stage we ended on for limited nationals where I won at shooting minor.
What?
And so for the limited match, it was, I think, between me and Mason and Sal Luna at the time right. on the super squad. But I was also aware that Scott Brown, who was shooting off super squad, was going to do very well.
Right.
But I only had Mason and Sal to kind of gauge myself against. And I went into that stage down a good number of points, like down 20 points or something like that. Right.
Oh, that's for the limited match, right?
For limited.
Limited, right. Yep.
And like I shot that stage probably as well as I could have. I shot it super aggressively. I did shoot it different. I shot a slightly different stage plan that I came up with Charlie Perez. He's like, hey, check this out. And he's like, if you come in this position and you like smoke the activator really quick for the swinger, then like you're already in that weird position for that. Then you can just kind of come in here instead of having to like do a full setup. And so there's a little bit of kind of stage planning going on with a buddy of mine. And I did that, connected on the activator popper with, I think, my second shot, but I didn't waste any time doing it.
Right.
And then shot that array as aggressively as I could, did my load, didn't shoot anything really on the move, if I remember right. I was just like random position, like a real aggressive setup on the activator popper, did my load to the front end, and then ended, my last shots were on the 35-yard swinger target. Mm-hmm. And I had to win this stage by a ton, right? Like, right. So I couldn't shoot a whole bunch of extra shots or insurance shots, that kind of thing. I think I had one extra shot on like one of the steel on the right side. Shot everything aggressively, but I didn't fire any extras on like the standalone static paper targets.
Right.
And the last target, like I shot 35-yard swinger target, I would go bang, bang. And then I'm like prepping for a third mate, like an insurance shot, and that I don't fire. Right.
Oh, you're taking a chance. Took a chance.
Like I got to risk it for the biscuit, right? but I also I called 2 good shots on it. Like maybe they weren't perfect alphas, but like I was, as difficult to target as it was, the target was there. We go down, I think it was Alpha Charlie on the target. So that went well. Won that stage over Mason by like 25, 30 points. So that like got me over Mason, who now had to push to tie me, and that's a whole nother thing.
Right.
And then the funny thing is Scott Brown shot the whole afternoon, because we shot in the morning, finished the match. Scott Brown shot in the afternoon, and he shot awesome the whole match. Right. And I'm pretty sure he has an idea of where he was stacking up against us and me. And it was so close between Scott Brown and I. If I had fired a makeup shot on that swinger, I would have come in second.
That's crazy.
if I had hit 2 Charlies instead of Alpha Charlie, I would have come in second.
Wow.
And obviously there's, 1,000 things leading up to that stage, but in the moment, like, that was the only thing that mattered. So there was a little luck involved, right? But
well, I wouldn't say luck, man. That's just you called the proper shots. I mean, you called it. You said you didn't not take the shot because you were like, if I take this, I'm going to lose. You didn't take it because you didn't need it. So that's not, dude, that's a skill set, brother. Calling your shots is a huge skill set, especially with iron sights. Us at 35-yard swingers. That's a skill set in itself, man. So tell them about the one with Jacob, because I thought that was interesting. Because he did a little more conservative plan than you, if I remember correctly, that story.
So it was a little different with me and Jacob. So the whole last day, Jacob and I were neck and neck, and we traded stage wins. Like, there were 6 stages. I'm pretty sure he won 3 and I won 3. And like, he would shoot a great stage, and then I would, beat him by like 0.5%, or I would shoot a great stage and he beat me by 2%, or like, wow. We're back and forth. We both shot good. So on the first day of the match, neither of us really shot that great. On the second day of the match, we were kind of like up and down, inconsistent. And on the third day, we both shot well, because it was a sprint to the finish. And the second to last stage, he shot before I did, and he shot it freaking perfect, right? It was like a clamshell and a bobber target with 2 minis, and you run back like this big V shape.
Yeah.
And like all the mini poppers, he went 1 for 1, super aggressive, like really good points on a crazy risky stage. And then I'm up. I'm like, shit.
He's turning, digging it in.
So I shoot the stage as aggressively as I can, and I come up a couple of percent behind Jacob, who just crushed the stage. So I didn't win that stage; he beat me. So going into our last stage, we were basically tied. Like, we were within a couple points of each other.
Right.
So between the two of us, I shot first. So I think I was first or second shooter on the stage. Jake was the very last shooter on the squad.
Oh man!
So he got to watch me. He got to watch me. Everyone else shoot, come up with the best stage plan possible. I shot the stage pretty similar to how I shot it in limited, just aggressive. Had to lay down a good score because it wasn't just Jacob. There were a couple other guys that were pretty close to us. And kind of put the pressure on Jacob. Everything connected, same as limited. I had a really, really solid run. I think I won the stage at the end of the match by like 14% or something like that. Like, it was a solid win. Yeah. I could be wrong on that, but it was a solid stage win.
Yeah.
And then when Jacob came up, like, he had to push, he had to shoot perfect, and he just made a couple of mistakes. I think he missed a reload because it's tough, right?
Dude, that guy is very good. So he's very, very good. And he has a very unconventional shooting style, the way he holds his shoulders and stuff. And so like that's why he's definitely a guy that I point at a lot and say, look, it doesn't have to be one way, because that guy loves to move and shoot with iron sights. I'm like, Jesus, he might as well have a red dot on that damn, iron sight gun. He loves to do that. He's very, very good. And I had a chance to actually sit down and talk to him quite a bit. We all kind of hung out a little bit at the IPSC, Pan American Games. He's super great. Like, what a great guy that guy is. So, it's so I guess my next question would be, because I'm really interested in this, you having that much pressure. And now obviously you've had countless matches with that kind of pressure, knowing Jacob, really, I would just say hammered down on that one stage to where he kind of put the pressure on you. How do you deal with that? Like, do you just not care and go, I got to just shoot this? Or do you like, all right, I just don't want to mess up? Or, I mean, obviously when you're shooting, you're not thinking of that, but it's getting to the line. How do you block that?
I mean, you definitely care. If anybody says they don't, they're lying to you. So one thing JJ Racaza said a couple of years ago, and something he'll joke about every once in a while, is like, all right, time to get nervous.
Right. That's actually funny. Like, it's pretty good.
Because in a big match like that, you want to be calm, but at the same time, you want to have enough. You want to shoot the stage like enthusiastically, like aggressively,
You want to be fired up. You want to rip.
Exactly. You want to be fired up. You
Yeah.
want to be able, you want to be able to push in those areas where you need to, and hold back and be conservative when you don't.
Yeah.
So it's like all throttle control.
You mean like
But-
playing the game, like we talked about like 20 times already in this podcast,
Right.
learning how to manage the damn match, Tom.
I mean, the crappy thing is though, at the end of the day, like you can only control you can only
Yep.
control your shooting. So the like all the outside influences, all that kind of pressure, like all you can do is grip the gun, aim the gun,
Yep.
pull the trigger.
Yep.
If you're not doing those three things, you're kind of wasting your energy.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's you versus you 99% of the time. So and I tell people this all the time, the only pressure that you have in this sport is what you put on yourself.
right.
Because at the end of the day, your score doesn't matter. It's what I shoot, right? I mean, which is really easy to say, but not easy to do, right? I mean, but at the end of the day, I can't change your score. I can only change mine, whether it's good or bad. So it's, it's always interesting to hear guys like, you, and really you're probably one of the only people I've ever asked that question to, because I mean, you're sitting here telling me like you're under a pressure cooker, like, wow, Jacob just murdered that stage. And now I got to come up here, and it's not even just like I got to win the stage. It's I just don't want I don't want to lose this stage too badly. It's almost what the feeling becomes, right? Because you're like, wow, if I go that fast, I'm not going to shoot everything very well.
Right.
You have a much calmer style than most people too, because I think your athleticism helps you in a lot of ways, because you're just very calm when you shoot. Like you never look like you get in a rush, but you are, right? You're shooting fast, like you're fast, but you just so chilled. Like even I watched a couple times when you reload, I'm just like, Jesus Christ, is he even trying? Like, it's just like,
but sometimes you're just trying to get it in the mag.
Yeah.
I mean, like, just trying to
but it's not that you're going slow. It's just it's just the way everything flows with you. I watch you shoot quite a bit. I remember Area 8. I was able to video you and then video me. And I had an overlay video of both things, and I won that stage, and it was only because you took extra shots at that bobber thing. But I was just like watching, I was just like, how in the hell is he that much closer? How is he that close to my time? I ran as hard as I could. It doesn't even look like he's running. Like, I was like, shit. And I was like, I remember walking off that stage going, yeah, that was awesome. And then I watched
it is fun watching people like Casey Acebio.
Oh my God, that guy's so fast.
Shorter guy, like it looks like his pants are on fire, like he's just like out of his mind fast. And he is fast, right? Like he's one of the fastest guys I know, and his shooting speed is ridiculous.
It's crazy.
But you compare him to somebody like me or a different body type where they can take longer strides and they utilize that.
Yeah.
Like it definitely plays a factor.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. All right, brother. Well, I'm really glad I had you on. I really wanted to tell everybody a lot about you, because unfortunately, I don't think you get the love like you should. You don't go on a lot of podcasts and stuff. I know you don't care, but dude, you had an amazing year, and you should be proud of it. You really did. I watched a lot, unfortunately behind you, but I watched a lot of your wins this year. But you're an inspiration, man. It's pretty cool. Like, I like that you can tell that you kind of picked it up a little bit in the last couple of years. Like you can really see it. Like we talked about a little bit with you working out and stuff. Like like something clicked, right? Does that make sense? Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, there's definitely a bunch of different things coming together.
Yeah.
I think that the physical aspect of it is a super important part. It's not really that hard though. Like at the end of the day,
yeah, like,
dude, go for a walk, a workout routine with weights, right? Yeah. If that's all you do, if you just track what you eat the correct amount of the right shit.
Yeah, pizza. I get only half a pizza. I'm good.
Go for a freaking walk and do a little bit of weight training. If you can do a little bit of that every single day, it's no big deal.
You do 5 days a week, 6 days, 7 days. How much do you work out?
If I'm doing it how I want to, I'll go for a walk every day. I'll eat healthy, maybe not every day, but as best I can.
Right.
And then I'll do like a quick weight training session. I'll try and do it once a day.
Yeah.
But it doesn't always work out. And it is
Does
what it is.
you and Jessica both eat? She's very healthy. You know, she's in pretty good shape. Do you guys work out together? Do you eat the same kind of foods, or is she like, screw you, I can eat pizza and you're a fat ass if you do? Like, because that's
No,
how it's with my wife. If
so
she eats whatever
Jessica,
she wants.
yeah, Jessica has the palate of an 8-year-old. So she could eat
Chicken
tater
nuggets?
tots and chicken nuggets and tater tots and ketchup and it's ridiculous.
That's so great. That's so great. You know, I cannot. She looks like a chicken nugget tater tot type of girl. She looks like her personality is just like, if you mess with me, I'm gonna cut you. So it's like awesome when you say that, because she's just simple but right to the point. You know, she's great. She's actually a lot of fun to shoot with. She might not like you, but she's definitely fun to shoot with. The first time I ever shot with her is the year I dropped all my magazines and I ran the stage twice to go pick them all up.
Oh no.
And she's in the background. Yeah, run, Tom, run. And dude, it was one of my worst and best moments of our sport. Like I knew I'd lost that stage. I had zero practice with production. I was there kind of to support a buddy who spent all year training on it. I left the red dot like literally a week before.
Right.
Never even picked up iron sights. And it was a lot of fun shooting with her. So yeah, man, you got she's awesome.
I remember seeing video of you shooting that stage. And so doing that, and you never gave up at any point. No. Like you were full intensity from one effed up position to the next, like picking up magazines off the ground. You can't, that's a real difficult thing to teach if you even can. But like you can't ever give up, even when everything's going wrong. You can't give up. I
refused to have a mic. I was not leaving that stage with a damn mic. There's no listen. At that point, I was actually starting to get in the swing of shooting the iron sights again. Like my time, the main thing that I have issues with is the timing, because with the red dot, the grip never changes between that and the iron sights. It's just I shoot it so much faster because I see it faster. Right. I have had so much more time on the red dot versus the iron sights. So when I'm shooting the red dot, I mean, it's like I see that red and I'm just bang, it's instant and I'm right in the A where I want to be. But when I picked up the iron sights, I wasn't trusting it, or I wasn't letting the gun land all the way down. It just wasn't there. So it was like, and then when I ran and all my mags fell out, I was like, hell no, I'm starting to get this figured out. I'm going back to unfortunately, I kept running to empty magazines. Right. And I had to go around and around and around. I didn't even know where the magazines were. I just had to start finding them on the ground. So, you know, but I was like, I refuse to leave here with any penalties, no mics. I think it was like a 55-second stage.
Right.
And the best part was at the end of the match, I still wasn't in last place on that stage. Boom.
I can't tell you how many times I've seen it where, because somebody didn't quit, like they either beat their arch nemesis or won a huge match. I think it was back in 2013 or 14. I won the USPSA multi-gun nationals, and Daniel Horner and I were going back and forth. And in this match, I suck at shotgun, or did at the time.
That guy's really good at 3-gun.
And this is back when we did the quad load, the load 4, right? So not like like John Wick, like you're doing like the old school thing.
Right.
And I literally picked up a dozen shotgun shells off of the ground.
You don't know what's what, do you? You're just picking up stuff off the ground. That's awesome.
Because I dropped so many shotgun shells trying to load. And somehow by the end of the match, Daniel and I were neck and neck, and I ended to eke out a win. But
that's awesome.
You can't quit, man.
I forgot this question. This is the last one, I promise. You guys run a local match, correct?
Yeah, my wife and I run a local USPSA match.
I've been really big about. I want to talk about this with everybody, especially someone at your level, because I'm one of the few grandmasters that I know that is trying to be at your level that actually run a match. I don't know a lot of us that do this, that at our level, right? And I think usually the best stage builders or the best ROs are us, the guys who think like we do, because we think about all the little details, and that's how usually you win a match anyway. So I'm very interested in how much help do you have at your match? Because obviously it's you and Jessica. Do you have like a core group of people that you work with in your area?
Yes. So we're super fortunate, and it's kind of an ebb and flow with the volunteers and the help that we have. But we've got a really good group of guys now. We've got Steve Gonzalez, who's another match director local to us. Doesn't technically need to help. So the way our local club is set up is there are generally 2 match directors for every match.
Okay.
And then each pair of match directors is responsible for their event. And we have 4 USPSA matches a month. So, Jessica and I are the 2 match directors for our match, which is the second Sunday of every month.
Gotcha.
There are a couple other match directors who will help us, without asking. Like, they're super generous with their time. And Steve Gonzalez and Mineki Semajima are a couple of them. But Brandon Engelbrecht is another local guy who volunteers a heck of a ton. And just people like that, like they're super generous and they want to come out and they want to learn because they want to get better too, right? Like Brandon, he shoots open. He finally has an open gun that works, and he wants to stage plan better. He wants to help us design stages and put stuff on the ground, and
that's cool.
And learn that way. So
that is a good way to learn. That's how I learned. I learned how to break stages down by building them, and it kind of helped me go through the process of understanding how they work from the ground up. And obviously it also allowed me to understand how ROing works, because when you build a stage, you're like, oh, you can get trapped in here. So you learned how not to build those kind of things. There's lots of things by building stages that actually makes you a better shooter that most people don't know. But how many shooters do you guys have on average every weekend? Like, obviously, maybe you just only know your numbers, but what is your weekend?
So for our USPSA match, and we run it once a month, we'll have anywhere between probably 75 and 100 shooters.
Damn.
So we have pretty reasonable turnout, and we'll
Saturday
usually
and Sunday.
It's just a Sunday.
Just Sunday.
Yeah, our locals are single day events generally, unless it's a special event, and they're all done on 4 pistol bays.
Wow.
So Rio Salado is known for a bunch of high level shooters and all these great matches. Most of our matches, our local matches, are held on 4 pistol bays. That's what we do everything on.
Do you guys do double stages, or do you so it's like big enough that you have doubles, or do you just have one and then change it at lunch and then flip it around kind of thing, or how do you guys do that?
So we'll usually run either 4 or 5 stage matches. So it'll either be 4 huge field course stages or one stage doubled up with like a medium and a short, and then 3 field courses.
I got you.
So yeah, generally 5 stages.
Nice. Yeah, so that's Arizona, right?
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Have you've lived there for a long time? Have you always lived there?
Not my whole life, but I've grown up here, and I mean, I've lived here for 28 years. It's been a while.
So almost your whole life. You're not that old, Nils. Don't worry, man. You still got time for your whole life.
I've traveled a lot of places over in the U.S. and overseas, and while they all have their redeeming qualities, I can't think of a place I'd rather live than Arizona.
Yeah, I've never been there. I've been to Vegas. I've been all around it. I've just never been there. So it's I'd like to go. I hope to. I was going to go to Area 2 before COVID, but man, that was before the Insider Circle and all that stuff was going on. So like, I couldn't really afford it. That is a very expensive match. Just the travel, that is a very high price match.
It is. Yeah. I think their entry fee is like $300, something like that.
Yeah. And it sells out faster than any nationals ever does. I was like, holy shit. So, cause Jessica's like, hey, I know a guy. And I'm just like, yeah, I think at that time the flight was like $1,000. And I'm like, look, it's just $1,000 to get there. I haven't even ate. I haven't got a hotel, no rental car, no entry to the match. I'm like, I love you. I'm out. Like, I just can't do it. So it's getting to the point where some of these matches, the match is the cheap part. It used to be the most expensive part of it all. And now it's the cheap part.
So the really good thing is, so this is January 5th, 2023. The good thing is right now, Southwest Airlines has great deals on flights.
Yeah. I'm actually getting ready to go to, I've got to buy my flight actually, as soon as we get off here to the SHOT Show. It's going to be my first year going. And, I've been having a hard time going through Southwest. The flights there are way more expensive than usual. That's usually the only place I fly is through Southwest. Yeah, through Southwest, but they're like $700 from there.
Yeah,
So
you can't book through them last minute. You got to be like
yeah.
a month and a half in advance.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it was last minute to even get to go. So I just filled out my paperwork to go 3-4 days ago. So hopefully they let me in.
No, I'm sure you'll be fine. So no, if this is your first time going to SHOT Show, you're gonna love it. There's a lot to see. A lot of people you've only seen at a match here or there will be there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a cool thing.
I'm excited, man. I'm interested in getting in there this year for I want to meet the guys. I definitely want to meet everybody at Canik. So I just, shake some hands of everybody who actually makes the product that I like. So it's pretty cool. So Nils, thank you for coming on, man. I really hope people get a chance to really get to know you a little bit more and understand that your accomplishments from the last really 2 years have been pretty damn amazing. This year was pretty unreal. Like you crushed it, bro.
I appreciate it, Tom. I'm going to try and post a little bit more on social media, maybe get my YouTube channel back up and going. And so I know a lot of people, especially overseas, spend a lot of time there, and that's where they learn most of their techniques is, from videos like that. So I'm going to try and get back to it.
You definitely should, man. I think you make, I watch you shoot a lot. Well, the little bit that you do post, but then I like kind of baby stalk you in the background when you're shooting sometimes and try not to interrupt you when you're doing your thing. But I watch you shoot quite a bit. There's always something to learn from somebody like you, man. You, to me, the mental game, bro. Like your mental game's fire. I think you got that figured out, buddy.
So don't forget. So when somebody looks like they got their shit together, most of the time they're just barely getting by.
But that's how you win a match. But that's all you need is just to get by.
Just enough.
Remember, half a point and 100 points is the same victory.
No kidding. No, so this year, obviously, I'm going to shoot as many national matches as I can. I'm going to shoot IDPA World Shoot. I'm pretty sure it is this year. And then Carry Optics Nationals will be the first big USPSA Nationals. I'll do a quick stint in multi-gun for USPSA multi-gun nationals, and then it'll be Iron Sights through the end of the year through production nationals. So
yeah, I think I'm actually going to do, well, I don't know. I don't think I'm going to do IDPA overseas, but I'm definitely doing.
No. So the IDPA World Shoot will be in Talladega, Alabama this year.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So it might be a challenge to get into since maybe you don't shoot a ton of IDPA because unless your company sponsors the event, you have to qualify with enough points. Okay. Which can be complicated, but every 3 years, their nationals turns into the world championship.
My plan is to do some IDPA this year. So I would like to do some more IDPA. I think there is I'd like to try it. I'm interested in how it works. It would be interesting to, anytime you put yourself into a challenging spot that you're not used to, I think you get better at. If you put yourself in those spots where it's accuracy based over speed based, it teaches you your levels of what actually is faster and what's not faster. So like you said, being out of that down zero zone is not faster, even though it feels faster.
Right.
So, because like you said, 40 seconds is, and I've actually seen some really good shooters go down by 40 seconds and still win. But obviously at these locals, it's a little bit different, but
but at a USPSA, you can recover from that because you can only lose so many points. Right. There's no limit to the amount of time you can lose on an IDPA stage. The sky's the limit.
They're like, Tom, go faster. Just keep going, dude. You got this. An hour later, when you're only shooting 4 minutes in the whole match anyway, and now you're actually down by 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, it's crazy.
But no, this 2023 should be a fun year. I'm looking forward to watching people like you. You've come a heck of a long ways in the last couple of years. When did you start shooting? It wasn't that long ago.
Dude, October this year, 2022 has been my 4 years. I shot four. I've been in this 4 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, and where'd you finish at CO National? I know it wasn't your best performance, but
31st.
31st. Out of like 70 grandmasters. That's not too bad.
I know. But it's funny because I went back and kind of analyzed. It was definitely my worst match I've ever shot, like by far, even worse than when I first started. Because at least when I first started, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. In this scenario, instead of being upset or pissed or, getting really upset, I learned a lot on match management, not just shooting wise, but also before I get to the match. So the biggest mistake I ever made was I basically went to every match you went, which was every single 2 weeks we were on a trip. Right. And it was like, which is fine normally, but then I did a match right before Carry Optics and I never gave my body a rest, my mental a rest. I went every single weekend before Carry Optics Nationals to a major match. And when I got to Carry Optics Nationals, I died out. I was done. I had no mental, no physical. And then I would have like some really good stages. I'm like, yeah, all right, we got it. I've got it. Nope. I didn't have it. It just, everything, all the fundamentals kind of fell apart. And I realized where that fundamental was. It was all vision. I was not leading with my eyes. I was leading with the gun. I went into open nationals directly after that. And I had 50 or 60 makeup shots.
Wow.
I had the same exact score that JJ and Christian had and Aaron. I had their exact hits. I was like, hell yeah, I was accurate. And then I was like 30 seconds slower. Oh, I should have just kept those deltas. I wasn't visually shooting. So that's what I focused on before I went to PCC Nationals. And I shot that and ended up 6 overall with no practice. But I only worked on visual with, I think I practiced with like 700 or 800 rounds in one day. I just went out and practiced to try to get used to the rifle and the recoil and get back to the moving with it. And I ended up and I had a lot of mics still because I don't practice like I should have, but I was like, wow.
You finished 6th overall at PCC Nationals with a bunch of mics. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I had like 7 or 8 mics. Yeah, I had my last day was, if I could have shoot like my last day, I even had a mic on my last day. I won, I think there was how many stages are there up there? 7 or 8 stages on the top 3 zones. I think there's 7 stages.
Something like that.
I won 5 or 6 of those stages, high overall. Yeah, I figured some shit out. I really did. I figured out some shit. And some of it had to do with the Virginia count stages. I started like something clicked mentally, like with all the conversations we've had after every nationals. I talked to Mason a couple of times and he's just like, it's funny because I had this conversation with Phil Strader, which I don't know him at all, right? Like zero. Like he doesn't know who I am. He doesn't know who Tom Castro is at all. So like we were all sitting in a group and he said, how'd you do? I was like, whoa, fucking Phil Strader just asked me how I'm doing. And I said, oh, I sucked. I got 31st. And so then I was like, all right, well, I'm a brave boy. I said, what is it that I'm not doing? What am I missing? Like, I feel like I'm good. I'm fast. I practice my ass off. What's going on? He goes, dude, your shooting isn't your problem. Look where you placed. And I'm thinking 31st is like the end of the world. And he's like, you shot great. And he's like, it's your mental. He's like, you need more experience in these bigger matches. And that's when I learned match management. Right. So from area 5 to area 8 to Carry Optics completely bombing to open nationals completely bombing, in my opinion, even though I got 21st, but that's just my norm. I seem to always be in the 20s. And then I go to PCC Nationals, I get 6 overall. And I'm like, oh, something clicked. And then I started realizing that you can't win everything. You're managing some of these stages that aren't your strengths. Like I really am not good at counting. So Virginia count ain't the best part for me. So I should just go 1, 2, 3, 4, reload 1, 2, 3, 4, even if I have to slow down a little bit, right? Instead of trying to win it every time. And I did that at the last day and I won a lot of stages. So it was, yeah, man, you learn every time you go to a match. You really do. If you're trying to win, if you're trying to get better. So I see a lot of the people saying, like, I've been placing in the same spot for the last 2 years. I've been a top 20 shooter every time. This year, actually at PCC Nationals, I missed the top 20 by 1 bullet. I shot a no-shoot, Mike no-shoot. I guess it should have been 2 bullets because I should have made the damn thing up knowing I hit it. But it was funny. I was like, I think that's what did it for me, Nils, honestly. When I shot the Mike no-shoot and I left that match at Carry Optics knowing that if I didn't try to win that stage, I'd been in the top 8. I think it would be in the top 20. I think I would have been like 15th or 16th from 1 bullet. And that's when I realized at nationals that it's a marathon. It's not one stage, right?
Yeah, no, that's 100% true. I've literally won national championships having never won a stage.
I think that's the hardest part of shooting these big matches though. You think you have to win stages. because that's what
it helps. Like,
oh, hell yes.
if you've got a gear you can crank into and put 15-20% on somebody on a stage that's like your wheelhouse, right, where it's your strength and everyone else is just struggling to get by,
right,
like that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But don't expect that to happen every stage. Like, that's not possible. And if you try for that, the chances of a crash and burn performance are pretty high. So sometimes, like, there's a time and a place to be super aggressive where like you can take advantage of the skill set you have. And then there's a time to like kind of hang back and be like, all right, I'm just going to get through this stage. I'm going to do what I know I need to do and go to the next one.
Did you have a specific moment in your shooting career that you kind of like, it just clicked and you're like, all right, I can do this? Was it a specific win that proved it, that you can do it? Is there something that like you can go back to? So you've been shooting for a long time. See, to me, that's the hardest part for me right now is I'll be 43 this year.
Right.
And I got into this sport super late. So I have always been shoot as many rounds as you can, go to as many matches as you can, because I'm trying to gain 20 years in 4. Right. And it has worked very well for me so far. But I don't have the pressure of what you guys have had to go through. You've been shooting against JJ, I almost said JJ Nils, like, cause you're that guy now, right? Like you always have been, but nobody really knows that. But you're shooting against those guys all the time. So it's like, it's just normal, right? Even though it's still pressure, it's just normal for you. Now, you're going to go to the match every year and go, all right, cool. I got to get nervous now, right? Like JJ said, time to get nervous now. So is there a moment in your life where either a match that you did where you're like, fuck yeah, I can do this. Like I'm good now. I got this.
I can't think of a particular match, but I can give you a couple of scenarios. So long ago, so I started shooting when I was 12 years old, right? So back in 2002, I started shooting and absolutely sucked. Like my first stage was a Tuesday night steel, which is a weekly steel match we have. I was shooting a Colt Gold Cup 45 with 7-round magazines, and my dad literally followed me around, picking empty magazines up off the ground, reloading them and putting them back in mag pouches because I couldn't stop missing. I shot the stage in like 86 seconds.
Oh my God.
And it should have taken me, now it would take me like 8.
That's an 800%, right? Or 8,000, whatever.
But I mean, so over the years, like when I started out, I was generally pretty quick. Like I wasn't afraid to, pull the trigger and, sling bullets downrange.
Right.
But I never had, or I didn't for a while, I didn't have that ability to just do what I need to do to make a hit, make a shot count.
To control it.
Right. And there was a time where I spent a little over maybe a year, 2 years. I shot revolver, of all things.
Oh,
and
lesson learned.
you can get away with a lot of stuff shooting a single action style trigger, where there's not a lot of pre-travel, and like you can whack the trigger and the sights will stay relatively close.
Right.
With the revolver, you've got to have a solid grip. You've got to press the trigger all the way through in order to keep those sights still. So that taught me a lot. And then when I was shooting single stack early on, I happened to shoot against these guys at my local club, like Angus Hobdell and Rob Latham and Matt McLaren. And, some guys that don't exactly.
These guys are terrible. Never heard of them.
So I would shoot like our regional single stack matches, and I would beat them on like field courses or anything that involved really fast shooting. And my Achilles heel was standard style stages. So anything where there was like strong hand, weak hand, or like 50-yard standards. And we had something called Schmidt standards. So every year at our Western States Single Stack Championship, we have it's a multi-string stage. So 50 yards, you have 6 seconds to shoot 6 rounds.
Right.
25 yards, you have 6 seconds to shoot 3 rounds, reload 3 rounds, and then at 15 you shoot strong hand only, and at 10 you shoot weak hand only. And I sucked on that style stage. So Rob Latham would shoot pretty good for the whole match because he's Rob Latham, like best pistol shooter ever, and he would dominate these standard style stages, and I wouldn't. So it pissed me off. I'm like, you know what? I can shoot. Like I've learned how to shoot, right? So now after I don't even know how much practice on that kind of, like, that's all I would go to the range and work on, right? Like I would put a plate rack out. Like you'll see a plate rack at 15 yards at a local match, right?
Yeah.
I'd put my plate rack out at 50 freaking yards, right?
Yes.
Like you can't even see the plate
Yeah.
if you're looking at your sights. And like if,
Awesome.
trying to go 1-for-1 on these 50-yard plate racks.
Right.
And just doing stuff that was so ridiculously hard. Like
Yep.
I had to get better. I had to learn how to grip the gun and press the trigger correctly.
Yeah.
I had to understand what an acceptable sight picture looked like at different distances, even if it was a ridiculous, difficult target. So now standard style stages are one of my strengths. Now I'll go to a match, and if there's one-handed shooting or like a really far target, like I know I can make that shot. Yeah, I might still be nervous about it, and I'll be like, freaking out leading up to it, but now it's not something that holds me back. So
So
now
you're
I go
telling
to a
me,
match like that, and I'll be the guy that wins the standard stage or close to it, and I'm definitely not giving points away.
so now I can thank Rob Latham for my Area 5 ass whooping with that last stage. Thanks a lot, Rob.
Pretty
Well,
much, yeah.
now I know not to depend on you to screw up on those types of stages.
Well, so anytime Max Michel zeroes a stage, it's hard. So
yeah, when he walked away with 6 mics, I actually was laughing my ass off because I remember people coming up to me and going, "Oh my God, like he's really shooting like shit." I'm like, has any of you looked at the other stages yet? Because he's killing it. I'm like, what? He had one shitty stage.
right.
I was like, God forbid that guy actually has human blood in him and he can actually shoot like a person and not a machine all the time. He's tough on the standard stages. That guy is an animal on the standard stuff. Like he's good all the time on everything, but his like he had a reload at nationals this year. Like I remember Phil had a reload. I think it was at Carry Optics Nationals that everybody's like, what an amazing reload, dude. Max smoked him at that stage. And I was like, so that means Max had a better reload. It just didn't make it on video because Phil Strader had one where if you blinked, you didn't see the reload. So I was just like, what and even Phil said, he said, the only reason I went as fast as I did was because Max murdered all of us on that stage. And I was like, holy shit. Like you couldn't even see him hit the reload. So it's just, those are things like that. Like, and I think the biggest thing that I take out of, well, there's a couple things out of the stuff that you just said. 2 things is my path is almost identical to yours. Like I was always faster and learned how to become accurate. I learned the fundamentals at speed instead of the fundamentals really slow and then hope to God I went faster. So it was really interesting that I'm taking the same path that you are in that aspect. So, and I think that's helped me speed through a lot of my woes as a shooter. And the other thing is fundamentals. Exactly the things that you just talked about are exactly the things that I've gone back to at the end of this year that I think is like the visual. Visual is such a fundamental thing that we don't pay attention to. Like when I warm up now, I actually focus on moving my eyes really fast to wake up my brain, right? Like we do nothing in life this fast. So when you like go to the safe table and you just put your gun in your holster and you walk to the line and they go beep, you're supposed to do a half a second draw. It doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
So it's like, those are things that I've changed a lot. Like I've really focused a lot more on the fundamentals, right? Like, because I think at the end of the day, when you start to struggle, if you go back to that, it doesn't matter how fast or slow you are, you're going to go right back to doing better. And then the confidence builds back up and then your shooting picks up and then it's pretty easy after that. So not always easier done, but easier, it's not always easy to have that happen, but that is the answer if anybody wants it.
Yeah. It's, at the end of the day, it's the fundamentals applied properly, quickly. That's all we're doing. And if you forget or get relaxed on, one of those 3 things, whether it's grip, trigger, or sights, things can go awry pretty quick.
Yeah. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. In practice for me, that's always been a cornerstone. Like my practices aren't very elaborate. Like it'll be, 2 or 3 targets. If that, I'll work on, movements and transitions and things like that. But as far as like draws and reloads, that like the gun mechanic stuff, you can work on all that in dry fire for free.
Yep, I agree.
So, and I hate dry fire, but if you're actually going to work on that kind of stuff and get better and learn a skill, it's way better to do it in dry fire first, especially, and then put it on the clock with bullets down range.
So
if you do
prefer
everything at the range. if you do everything at the range, like it's hard to fine tune some of those finer mechanics of the gun.
You prefer to shoot over dry fire?
Oh yeah, it's way more fun.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I know you'd be surprised how many people like the other way. Like they like to shoot, don't get me wrong, but they feel like dry fire is where they really gain, where they make their most gains. And I'm the other way. I gain everything. I have had my major breakthroughs have been on the range, shooting, even dry firing on the range, right? You don't have, just because you're at the range doesn't mean you have to shoot constantly. Sometimes it's good to, actually, that's what I do with my students a lot. I either take their bullets away, that's what I start with, and then I take their gun away. Because if we're working on movement, what the hell are you looking at the target for? Those like things like that. So sometimes the gun is a negative. I have taken people's gut targets and put them on the ground and made them shoot into the berm because they were so focused on the results of the target instead of what we were actually working on, right? Like the entry, staying square, how you're entering with your feet, how you're exiting. So a lot of the times I'll say dry fire, but the gun is fun, right? Like you lose people when you start taking bullets away. So a lot of the times I go, okay, cool. You can have your gun, but you're not going to get to have a target to shoot. I just shoot into the dirt. And amazing how their footwork gets instantly better. It's like, hey, isn't that interesting how you're actually focusing on the drill and not that stupid piece of paper down there that's not even scored. It's like, we're not even scoring that dumb thing. So it's, I'm glad you said that too, because I'm big on I really think that you should spend as much time live fire as you can. I see way too many people that will go 2-3 months of dry fire, never go to the range, and then they've built in 3 months of really shitty habits and then completely have to go start all over again when they go to the range.
Well, so the hard thing with dry fire is it's difficult to keep yourself accountable for everything you're supposed to do. So it's easy to get relaxed with your grip because you're not going to grip the gun. If you're doing dry fire as fast as humanly possible, you're not going to grip the gun as if you were holding it and controlling recoil when it's firing.
Right.
So if you're gripping the gun differently in dry fire, that's doing you a disservice when you go and put bullets in the gun. Right.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like you can't cheat a sight picture in live fire because you know exactly where the bullet went. You can cheat a sight picture in dry fire. So if you're allowing yourself to get sloppy and cheating your visual and dry fire, you're doing yourself a disservice when you put bullets in the gun. So I think you have to do both. Again, I think dry fire is boring as hell.
Yes.
But if you're working on a specific skill, especially like gun mechanics, if you're working on a reload technique or you're working on a draw technique, especially a draw technique, you probably want to like accidentally pull the trigger with no bullets in the gun and then with bullets in the gun. Awesome. But that kind of thing, and movement too, like you can do all that kind of stuff without firing a single round. And I get that there's a huge cost expenditure component to even 9mm, right? Like 1,000 rounds of factory 9mm, even now $270 for average 9mm. So it's definitely expensive, and dry fire can alleviate that to a degree.
Yeah. All right, man. Last question about the Canik. Are you switching to the steel, bro?
I'm excited. I'm genuinely excited about the steel frame. I don't think so the extra weight allows you to get more relaxed when you shoot, right? It doesn't make you shoot faster. It allows you to get away with more. So I think there are pros and cons to the extra weight. I think it in general helps with accuracy because the gun settles on target more consistently. But there's more weight to transition from target to target, right? With that being said, I think the general consensus is more weight is better. Do I think 59 ounces is, perfect? Probably not.
Is that what it is? Is it 59 ounces?
No, that's the max weight limit for production.
Right. Yeah, that's great. It's like you're going the
no, no. From the factory, they're gonna weigh 42 ounces.
So what is do you know what the rival weight is now? Without
30
anything,
30 ounces base. So it's a 12 ounce increase. All in.
That's a lot, actually. That's a lot for the same pistol. Actually, that's a lot. Actually.
It is. And the fact that we're going to MSRP these for under $900 for the black one.
That's pretty awesome.
There's not a gun on the market that can compete with that price with everything that we put in the gun. So
has anything else changed?
That should be a good time.
Has anything changed with well, we can wait. I'll wait till when I come to SHOT Show, I want to do a whole thing on it. Like I want to start doing a little more reviews on that. This is one of the reasons why I haven't touched the grip on this. because I usually put the tungsten carbide on it. I kind of like a little stickier grip. I want to do a review on the Rival versus the TP9 SFX because just a few changes they have, I think, especially competition wise. I want to gear a little bit more towards the gear stuff a little bit, because I think a lot of people piss away a shit ton of money because they go to the range and everyone's shooting a specific heavy gun, and I'm like, okay. The other thing about the steel gun is, and to answer anybody's question in case you truly want my opinion about it, is I don't know if I'm going to switch, because I switched from a steel gun that was extremely heavy to the Canik so I would remember to grip the gun. That was the number one reason I changed the pistol, was because I was getting really lazy with the heavier gun. And then when I got into the Rival for a couple of weeks, I was like, this gun is amazing. Then, when I got into TP9 SFX, then I put the better trigger in it and it was over. I was like, I'm never going back. So now I'm like, if I go to a heavier gun with exactly everything I like, am I going to be lazy again? So it's funny though, like you said, it's more forgiving, but it also makes you lazy. Right? It's like the government check in the mail, bro. It's coming, so but I don't actually have to work for it.
Yeah, it can be more forgiving. It can make, like little mistakes here and there not as costly. But I mean, this right here is, so this is all I've done to my gun, right? So I've got the tungsten guide rod like you, because I adjust the spring weight.
Yep.
As far as the grip goes, factory trigger, polymer backstrap.
Yeah, you still wear that thing.
So my grip is actually stock. And the weird thing is, for my production gun, so iron sights, I do have the weighted backstrap.
Really?
And so for Carry Optics this year, I left the polymer backstrap on just because I like the way the dot track better with that weight distribution.
So that's cool. Yeah, I remember us talking about that, because actually at Area 5, we sat down, and that was the first time that I actually got to hold the Canik in my hand at the safe table. And it was funny because, dude, you were sponsored by them. You are their man, and you still had a TP9 SFX as a backup gun. And I was dying laughing. I was like, what? And you're like, dude, I just know this gun works. And I was like, so and I was like, and then buying the Rival and having the TP9 SFX in my hand, I'm like, damn, these are almost identical. Like, the few changes that you made to me on the Rival were worth the purchase. But the TP9 SFX, I'm like, you guys just made this gun perfect. Right? That was the only, and that thing didn't need much work. So I was really surprised. Like, I was like, no, I don't need the Rival. This one's great. Like, I don't need to change. And then I was like, I'm buying one. After I picked yours up, I'm like, I'm getting it. I think I ordered it the very next day.
That's awesome.
I was like, damn it, Nils, I hate you. You make me spend money.
It is funny that, people like you and me are still running the factory trigger on these Rivals, though.
I don't understand why you would. I don't know. I guess maybe I've never felt the other ones, but I don't know if I care to, because this thing runs. It just really works. So I mean, dude, it's like a fraction of a hair as it is now. So, and I also like a little stiffer trigger, so I can trigger prep, because I'm real big about. I really hold the wall. Pretty aggressive on my steel. It's kind of where I gain some of my speed, I think, over some others, is because I can shoot slower. I'm on it sooner before a lot of other people. So that's just kind of my philosophy, is to shoot sooner, not faster. I learned exactly those three things that you kept talking about. I have two rules. Number one, what gives you permission to pull the trigger? Is there sights? Rule number two is what gives you permission to exit, leave the target, move, or reload is pull the trigger. So if your sights are on the target and you haven't pulled the trigger, what the hell are you waiting for? If you've pulled the trigger and you're still on the target, what the hell are you waiting for? Pretty simple, right? It's really easy to break those rules, though.
It is. And as far as getting lazy with the heavy gun, like, that's all grip, right? Like,
100%.
You feel like the gun does a whole bunch of the work for you, and then you end up trying to, give away your control.
Right. I go back and watch videos of the plastic gun, right? Like, because I'm holding the Rival and the gun's just going. I'm like, yeah, I'm doing my job. And then I go back and watch the gun I used to shoot was a Shadow 2, and the gun's going whoom, whoom, and I'm going, oh, I didn't hold that gun. So, it's like you said, go back to the fundamentals. You always go back to the fundamentals. So,
yep, grip, sights, trigger press.
Yeah,
but no, we're super excited we're super excited about the Canik Rival S, our steel frame. That's going to be super fun. So yeah, swing by our booth at SHOT Show and we'll do a review.
But do you remember the booth number?
I don't off the top of my head.
You don't need to know. Just go where the big sign says Canik on it. That's it. It's that simple. So I'll get you the number when I'll get you the number, because this is probably going to go out actually either during SHOT Show or right before SHOT Show. So everybody get a chance to come out, but it'll get out there before that. And Nils, man, thank you so much for coming on, brother. I really appreciate it. I got to learn a lot more about you, and I actually thought I knew a lot about you.
Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I will see you at SHOT Show.
Appreciate you, brother. All right, guys. If you have any questions, hit me up in those comments, and we'll see you on the range.